Kia ora and welcome back to Catherine Parr's Light. Today I'm joined by the incredible Deidre Wilton, an esoteric astrologer, intuitive teacher, a spiritual guide whose work bridges astrology, past life healing, and soul evolution. In this conversation, we explore what makes Deidre's readings so unique, how to understand your soul chart, and how the sun, moon, and the ascendant shape your inner blueprint. We also dive into the solar return charts, the astrology of where to spend your birthday, and finally, we step into the mystical, the dragons and the Dalvik kingdom, the ancient guardians of Earth's wisdom and light. This episode is such a beautiful fusion of cosmic knowledge, grounded insight, and the soul's remembrance. So take a deep breath in, open your heart, and enjoy this magical conversation with Deidre Wilton. Kia ora, Deidre. How are you going?
Kia ora. I'm very well, thanks, Catherine.
Wonderful. It's always a privilege and an honor to have you here with us on the show. Thank you for being here with us and sharing your amazing knowledge. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit of, just for those that haven't listened to any of our previous podcasts, just what actually got you into astrology and all of the line of work that you're now doing it.
Okay, so I've always been interested in astrology and always used to read my horoscope and do things like that. And then I also was always used to love having readings. I love the whole clairvoyant thing and being able to tune into that. And I can remember actually thinking for many years, oh, that'd be such a cool thing to do as a job. I'd really like to do that when I grow up. And then just carried on and doing other things. And then I met my teacher, who was a friend of mine before she became my teacher. And one day she said to me, her name was Margaret McElroy, one day she said to me, I think I should do a reading for you and we can find out a bit more about you and what you're here for and all the rest of it. So I had a reading with her, and as soon as she pulled up my natal chart, she took one look at it and said, oh my God, she said, you're an astrologer. She said, you've done this lifetime after lifetime. I can see it all in your chart. So I'm sort of looking at the chart thinking, well, I'm not so sure about that, but okay. But as she said it, I honestly sort of heard this audible click in my head and I started downloading. And suddenly within a few weeks, I understood not everything about astrology, but an incredible amount about it, just from nowhere. And so what I learned from this, when I started studying and learning more about metaphysics, is that, every lifetime that we have, your soul remembers every detail of it. And but your soul has no idea of chronological order of when something's appropriate and when it's not, or when you need to recall that memory and when you don't. So once you get put in a certain situation, it sort of triggers the unlocking of the soul memories. And so everything that's been sitting in that memory box to do with whatever's been triggered starts downloading. And suddenly you've got all that information. So everybody does this, and people often aren't aware that they do it. But that's when you see things in life that come very, very easily to you. Like for some people, driving a car is no problem at all. The minute they get in, they automatically understand you move the gears like this, you move your feet like that, and it just makes perfect sense to them. And that would mean that they've driven cars in many, many lifetimes. So the soul is familiar with this way of doing things. But then there's other things that we go to learn and do in life that are really, really difficult. We've got to study harder, we've got to work hard and focus hard. And those are things that your soul's never experienced before. So it's not giving you that extra bit of help that you often get with things that feel very familiar to you. So anyway, I had this reading with Margaret, and then after a few weeks after that, I had to go. My mother was shifting house, so she asked us to come back and sort out all our things that had been there for forever. And so I found a whole lot of my old school work from when I was in primary school, and I found the first ever school report that I'd done at around the age of 8 or 10, and the whole thing was on astrology. And the front page, the title page, was like a natal chart. It was like all the signs of the zodiac all in a circle, all made up, and it was amazing. And so it really confirmed to me, as I started doing more of this work, the concept that I believe that whatever we do as children that what we love to do as children is exactly what we should be doing as adults for our career. Because as a child, you're only attracted to what you're good at and what you enjoy, and that's what everybody's career should be: what they're good at and what they really enjoy doing. So it's always, I often, when I'm doing readings for parents about their children, I sort of ask, well, what did they love to do when they were about 8 or 9 or even younger? What was their natural way of play? What did they always want to play teacher? Did they always want to do dress ups? Did they always want to, read books? Or, what was it? Because that will usually be the path to sort of guide them towards as they get older. because it's natural, a natural gift and talent. Yeah, so that's how I came about and just grown from strength to strength since then. So I now do most of my work online, but I travel all over the world to work. I do retreats and workshops and readings overseas and in New Zealand, and a lot of it online, a lot of it in person. So there's all sorts of things that go on. So as well as working with astrology, I also work with metaphysics in general. One of the things that we really realize when you're walking the spiritual path and doing this work is the most important thing is the inner work. And it's all very well to go and get readings and get told you're going to be this and you're going to do that and you're going to marry them and all the rest of it. But unless you do that inner work to believe in yourself and to love yourself, all of those things that you come across are going to mean nothing to you. So I also teach all about the inner child work, the past lives work, the ego self work, and the metaphysical work we do with the dragons. That's my latest thing I'm getting into now is the dragon work, which is a lot of fun too. So there's so much out there to explore. And, we're in a time on the earth plane now where we're really being encouraged to rely more on ourselves. We've kind of been conditioned out of thinking for ourselves. And it's really interesting how we were just talking about this earlier today where they were talking about how there's a couple of cases of measles in New Zealand. Now, when I was a child growing up and somebody got measles, we would have measles parties.
Yes.
They would come to that person's house so they could all get it at the same time, build that immunity. Nobody ever died. Nobody ever was badly injured by it at all. It was building natural immunity. But when you sort of try and suggest that thing to someone today, they look at you like, what were you thinking? And it's like, what's gone wrong here? Where did you stop thinking for yourself that this might be a good idea and just allowed everybody else to tell you it was the wrong idea? So I think this is really important that we're all coming back to this now. But to be able to make those decisions for yourself and believe in yourself like that, you've got to love yourself. You've got to trust yourself. And so you've got to do that inner work first before you can embark on the rest of it. And so that's another big thing that I teach and do as well.
That's wonderful. And I 100% agree, like attracts like, you can only pull in what you believe you're worthy of. So I guess that would pretty much explain my next question then about how although in saying that, let's talk into when you're giving a astrology reading or a soul chart reading and you do bring in your clairvoyant aspects or your mediumship into a reading as well. How does that work, Deidre?
Yeah, well, a lot of us who do this sort of work, whether we're astrologers or we work with the tarot cards or anything like that, sometimes it's good to have like a tool that, to me, it's like having a diving board, a springboard. So once I look at the chart, I just start downloading information. So basically what that means is the guides of the person I'm reading for start talking to my guides and my guides download all the information into my head. And so I just start to just know and feel things about the person in front of me. And I talk to them about their astrology and what I can see their life path is about, what their lessons are they've come here to learn, where they're going to have challenges in life and where life's going to be easier for them. And as I do that, I'm being given more information about how they could go about that or who could help them with that and what the next step could be. So I can bring in more of that information, not just on the astrology, but on the clairvoyance of what the guides are suggesting and encouraging this person to do.
Because as we know with soul chart readings, well, as we're about to explain to people that we do have the foundation of what we come in with, but then there's also the free will and how we get there.
Yes.
And so that's where I see the clairvoyance part really helping because you can help them navigate through the free will part.
Absolutely. And because our free will or our ego is the most likely thing to get in the way of what you're doing. Because with our astrology, the purpose or the theory behind it is that we choose our lives before we're born. And so your natal chart or your birth chart or your soul chart is the map of everything or the blueprint of your life. And so once you can understand what you came here to do and what you came here for, life becomes a lot easier. You've still got to get there and you've still got to go through those challenges, but at least you know where you're going and the direction you're meant to be taking, rather than just running around thinking everything's haphazard and everything's random and things just happen to me and I've got no control over it. It's a scary feeling to feel that you've got no control over your life. And the only way to have control over your life is to understand, what is my purpose? What am I here for? And for a lot of people, they think, oh, what's my purpose? Am I here to rule the world? Am I here to be a chief executive? Am I here to do this? That's not what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about your purpose, it's like, what are you here to learn? What are you here to understand about yourself? So it could be that you're here to learn all about abandonment in a lifetime, or to learn all about partnerships in a lifetime, or to learn all about children in a lifetime. And I can so people might find that, I say to me, well, there's always children around me. Everywhere I go, I try and get a job as an architect, but suddenly I'm back in early childhood. There's always children. And I look at their chart and it's all about children in their chart. So, and then they get that confirmation that is actually the reason children keep turning up in your life or you keep ending up with them is because it's part of your journey. You've chosen to learn through that area of your life. So don't run away from it. Jump into it and see what's there for you.
Yes, because it will just keep turning up.
That's why also with parents, I think that every parent should be handed their child's natal chart and report as soon as they're born, because then they can help that child to become what they've come here to be and not try and mold them into something that they think they should be.
That's right. And I believe that a lot of those preconceived ideas of what they think that their children should be is not even really genuinely coming from themselves. It's actually from what they feel, in order for them to be able to fit into the box of other people, which is quite common, but also changing, I believe.
Yeah.
So when you get do you get channeled messages? And do they always come from spirit guides, or do they sometimes come from higher up? Or
I work with the ascended masters, so often they'll come from the masters as well, and also the loved ones of that person that have passed on. If their mother or their grandmother or someone like that is there and wants to put a message through, then that's what will come through as well. And this lifetime is a lot also for people to be dealing with a lot of ancestral karma. So ancestral karma is when we can see that down a whole line of your family, whether it's down your mother's line or your father's line, there's been repeat patterns of behavior. So maybe there's been alcoholism every lifetime, every generation, or maybe there's been divorce every generation. So we're all coming into this lifetime to clear and stop that and repeating the same things over and over again. So that's why a lot of people are having very difficult lives in this lifetime, because they're burning off karma, but they're also burning off ancestral karma. And when we work with the ancestral karma, we clear it 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And so it means that our children and our grandchildren are not going to have to learn the same way that we did, which is, so it's, we're doing a lot of work. Even when you feel you're walking the spiritual path or not in this lifetime, you're still doing the work.
Talking into that, that was something that came up for me around how you don't have to consciously be doing the spiritual work to be very spiritual in what you're doing. A lot of our medical professionals out there, they're all healers, but whether they see themselves as healers, but because they don't have that conscious awareness of it. I mean, they're all working in the same way.
And they've been drawn to it for a reason.
Yes. Okay, so we want to dig into my little soul chart and bring that up.
Okay. So we'll just whiz it up here, so we haven't got all the details there. Okay, can you see that on the screen?
I can, yes, it looks great.
Okay, so when I look at someone, this is a natal chart. This is Catherine's natal chart. So this is basically a photograph of the heavens at the exact minute that Catherine was born. So no 2 natal charts are ever the same. Even twins, and especially, it's interesting, I've done several charts for twins, and it's so interesting because, usually a lot of twins are born in this day and age by cesarean section. So there's not a lot of time between each twin's birth. But whereas in the olden days, often twins could be half an hour or more between each birth. And so they'd be quite significantly different to one another. But now that these twins can be born, very close to within minutes of each other, the planets move in relation to one another every 4 minutes. And so I did children the other day who were born within 3 minutes of each other, and there was only one small thing that was different, but it changed everything about them. It sort of moved a planet out of one house and into another, which meant that one of them had a focus and was going to learn all her lessons in one area of life, and the other one was going to learn the same lessons but in a particular, completely different area of her life. So this is the natal chart. So as you can see, it's a round circle and it's divided up into 12 different sections, all numbered around here. So 12 sections like 12 signs of the zodiac. So each section is called a house, and each house represents a different area of your life. And so around here, we've got all the planets. So where the planets sit in the house show what the lesson is to learn there. And then these are all the signs of the zodiac through here. And so the sign of the zodiac it sits in shows how you're going to learn it in the most natural way possible. So when we look at your chart, Catherine, the first thing I always look at is where your sun is sitting. So here's your sun sitting up here, and your sun is your primary focus. Wherever that sits in your chart, whatever sign of the zodiac it's sitting in will be the lens through which you view the world. And whatever house it sits in will be your greatest arena for focus and growth and development. So because yours sits in the 10th house, your primary focus in this lifetime is your career and being in the public eye, because that's what the 10th house represents. So because it's there in Pisces, Pisces energy, when it comes to careers, is either very creative or very spiritual energy, one or the other usually. Of course, Pisceans can do other things, but usually they tend to excel in those areas. So it's basically saying that your career in this lifetime is meant to be a spiritual one or a creative one. And because it's the sun involved, you're meant to be in the public eye. It's not about you being behind the scenes supporting other people or being the wind beneath someone else's wings. You are actually meant to be the face and the voice of what you do.
And isn't that fitting?
Yeah.
Considering my first career was as an actress,
Yeah.
so in the was creative and in the public eye, and that now here I am stepping into my mediumship, channeling, healing in the spiritual realms, doing a spiritual podcast.
Perfect. And next to your sun, you've got two other planets in your 10th house. So when there's three planets in a house, it means it's a major focus. With the sun there, it's a major focus anyway, but having two other planets there also makes it quite a major focus for you. And the planets you've got here are different. They're sitting in Aquarian energy. So they're going to be slightly different to the Pisces. So first of all, you've got the moon sitting here. So the moon, when the moon sits in Aquarius, you tend to have, Aquarian energy is outside the box energy. So when the moon sits in, which represents your emotions, your intuition, sits in Aquarius, it means that those sorts of things you're going to do differently to other people. So because it's about your love and your emotions and things like that, what the most common thing is for people who are born with their moon in Aquarius is to have relationships with people, romantic relationships especially, that are outside the box. So that could mean anything from having a long-term relationship with somebody who lives in another country to having a long-term relationship with someone who's married or someone who's a lot younger than you or a lot older than you. It's just always going to be it's not your traditional 2.2 children in house in the suburbs and the black Labrador. It's always going to be a little bit outside the box. And that makes you feel more comfortable because you need your freedom and your independence. And so for you to be in a traditional relationship makes you feel boxed in and like your wings are being clipped and like you're controlled by another person. So it's more comfortable for you to be in a relationship where you feel like you've got this freedom, where it's a little bit different. So,
Yes.
and we know that this does suit you because you are in a relationship with someone in one of those situations.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, my husband is 10 years younger than me. So definitely fitting. And I think it also, for me, it's still a little bit, yeah, it is. It needs something a little bit different, a little bit individualized. I don't like being the same as everybody else. So there we go. That's the Aquarius in me.
Yeah. And the other wonderful thing, when you've got your moon, you're born with your moon in the 10th house, is considered to be a position of fame and notoriety. So it means that you do not leave the earth plane without leaving your mark on it in some way. So, that can be for some people very, it's challenging. Oh my goodness, I've got so much to do. I'm going to be in the public eye. But for you, because you did this from a young age, it's going to be easy for you. And it's just going to make sense for you to be the face and the voice of what you believe in, to speak up about things, to put yourself out there, because it actually comes very naturally to you to do so. So when you were working as an actor, did you have a lot of fear of being on film or in the public eye or on stage?
Not at all. I mean, I never really enjoyed theatre. And I never really went down that route. I sort of more so studio, but no, not at all. I just knew I
Yeah.
was good at it. I knew what I was doing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed becoming the character. I enjoyed playing with the character. And yeah, no, I had absolutely no fear. I think my family had more fear than I had.
And it's because you've got those planets there. You came into this lifetime feeling comfortable in that area of your life because you've got that planetary support there. So that's as we sort of start to see how working with the planets and with astrology gives us a lot of support. It gives us a lot of guidance and insight into who we are and what we're meant to be doing.
Yes.
And then the other wonderful planet you've also got in your 10th house is Mercury. And Mercury is the planet of communication. So it's the perfect planet to have in that 10th house if you want to be an actor, do podcasts, or that your career is meant to be about communication. And because it's an Aquarius, it's not meant to be about normal, traditional, conservative communication. It's about outside the box communication, which once again is the mediumship, the channeling, the clairvoyance, all of that. So that's, it's what you're here to bring to the world and what you're here to share with the world. So the other thing I always look at, the next thing I would look at in someone's chart is their ascendant or their rising sign. So your sun sign up here is who you are on the inside. It's who you truly are, what you're aiming, working towards, and, the nuts and bolts of you. And then we all have a sign that's rising, which is basically just this line that goes through here between the 12th house and the first house. And that sort of is how you present yourself to the world. So although you're a Pisces, you present yourself to the world like a Taurus. So as a Pisces, you're very gentle, you're very creative, you're very intuitive, and you're very easygoing. Usually, can be outgoing people, but usually quiet and in the background a little bit, but very easygoing, not confrontational people, anything like that. And then but when your Taurus ascendant is how people actually perceive you and see you. So with your ascendant and Taurus, people see you as someone very capable, very practical, very down to earth, and very hardworking. And so they don't see how intuitive you are or how creative you are. So you've got to kind of work a little bit more on that if that's what you want people to see the most about you. But what they do see is someone very reliable and trustworthy, which is also something you would want people to be, especially doing this sort of work, is that you don't want people who come and sit with you to have a reading that don't feel comfortable in your presence, or that you give off. I mean, I think in any career or any industry or anywhere that we work, if you can't be confident in what you do, then the people that come to you for sales or products or whatever, they're not going to be comfortable buying off you. So that Taurus ascendant gives you that ability to make people feel at ease in your presence, as does the Pisces energy, because you come across as someone who knows what they're talking about, who's not going to make up rubbish, who's just down to earth, practical. So you'll probably find because of that, although you're highly intuitive and you could talk in light language and la stuff all the time, you actually have this ability to make things make sense for people, to make it practical, to make it logical, as opposed to too woo-woo out there.
Which isn't that quite funny, because that is definitely what I try to do in the spiritual space. I mean, my whole goal for this podcast is to normalize spirituality and to bring it down so that it's for everybody, and it's not just out in the cosmos or out in some spiritual realm out there somewhere. It really is about bringing people back to their center and knowing that we all have these gifts. And it is that whole formula that you've just said just then is exactly my goal in life. So that's amazing.
Yeah, because everybody is intuitive. We're all born intuitive, and it's just up to you whether you're going to choose to use it or not. So for some people, intuition, what is that? To me, it's your gut instinct. And we all, on one level or another, work off our gut instinct, or we should. And so often if I'm working with men, I'll talk about their gut instinct as opposed to their intuition, because that makes more sense to them than the word intuition does. So, but it's all about learning to feel your way into things. Does this feel right for me? Or am I doing this because it's ticking the box, because somebody told me to, or because that's what everybody else is doing? So we're really learning at this time on the earth plane the importance of feeling into everything. Is this right for me? It might be right for you, but that doesn't mean that I should do what you're doing. I've got to feel into this for me to see if it's right for me.
That's right. And everybody does it. They do it without even realizing. They walk into a room and they're like, "Oh, I don't like it. I don't want to stay here." And that's them listening to their intuition. Or, "Oh, I really like sitting with that person. I don't know why. It's just get a great, just like being around them." Well, that's you feeling into your intuition. It doesn't have to be very woo-woo. Anyway, so back to our soul chart.
Yeah. So what else have we got in the chart? So those are the most important planet in your chart is the planet Saturn. And this is Saturn sitting over here. So Saturn is our teacher and our disciplinarian. So wherever he sits in your chart is where you're here to face your greatest challenges, your biggest lessons, and your biggest fears. And so, so what we really understand with Saturn, or with life in general, is that we all have fearful of certain things, whether those fears are sort of out of experience or whether they're just a fear that we've come in with. And the thing is that, as we all should also know by the age that we are now, or no matter what age you are, when you face what you fear, it goes away.
Yes.
But until you face it, it's got all this power over you. It's sort of holding you to ransom, and there's nothing you can do about it. But sometimes you just have to face up to it, stand up to it, and bang, it's gone. And suddenly it's like, oh, this is really great on the other side of this. I don't have the fear anymore. And look at the reward I got from facing it. So that's what
Yes.
Saturn's all about. He demands hard work, discipline, and focus. So in your chart, he's sitting in a Scorpio. So one of the things that you're very much here to learn about in this lifetime is how to stand in your own power and not play the victim. Because one of your fears with Saturn in Scorpio is that you'll always be picked on. You'll always be the victim. You're always not as good as everybody else. You'll always be put down. And that is in your mind. It's not the reality. So I think you said to me earlier that as a child you were bullied a lot and picked on, and that was because of that Saturn placement. You had to attract that to you to learn what
Thank
to do with
you.
it.
That was my next question because I don't think we talked into that. Where I do feel like those situations actually did happen, like they did manifest. It wasn't like I was just sitting there making them up; like they felt very real.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're talking into now around Saturn saying, okay, well, this is what we're going to work on in this lifetime. So yes, I am going to manifest all of these different relationships so that you can grow and expand in this space. So thanks, Saturn.
You chose it, Amanda. So Scorpio is the most sensitive sign of the zodiac. And so that's because, we hear about the Scorpio sting and the Scorpio, revenge energy and all of that. And it's because it's such a sensitive energy. And
Yeah.
so we all have our different way of processing things. And for Scorpios, they have to go deep. They're not very good at making split-second decisions. They would rather not have to do that. They need to feel their way through things. And that's something else you had to learn, that rather than allowing things to just make decisions for you, or you to feel, oh, I'm the victim here, I'll just bow down to that. You would just start to feel, okay, where's my power here? Because you can't play the victim and stand in your power at the same time. You've got to make a choice. And so this was your wake-up call in this lifetime, is what am I going to choose?
Mm.
So your Saturn sits in the 7th house, which is the house of partnerships. So that's your marriages and or your business partnerships. So that's going to be your greatest arena for growth in this lifetime, as partnerships, which is often the case for a lot of us. We learn a lot through our partnerships. So for you, because of that placement, you would have chosen in this lifetime to experience some not very nice relationships where you were victimized and made to feel not good enough at all. So you could learn to fight back and not think, okay, well, this is my lot. I'll just succumb to this. I'll just give in. You can fight for your rights, for your right to be right, to feel things and to stand in your own power. So until you found a partner or until you learnt to do that for yourself, you weren't going to attract the right partner. So it's like you almost had to raise your level of self-love, self-awareness, and self-worth up to a certain level before you could attract the right person. Up until you raised it to that level, you would attract someone to you who was just going to try and pull you back down again, because you hadn't learnt to take those final steps.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was, yes, I mean, in many areas as well, not just romantic. So
Yeah.
amazing. Let's not share too much about my
No. But I'll just also say with Saturn, because it takes Saturn 28 to 30 years to get from where he starts off in your chart round through all the 12 houses and back to that point again. So astrologically, we don't believe you're an adult till you're 28 to 30 years of age, because you haven't had and it's almost called an initiation, where it's kind of your initiation into adulthood, where you finally realize between 28 and 30 that this is your life and you must take responsibility for it. No one's going to fix it for you.
I feel like everybody that everybody around 28, 29, 30, they're like, okay, I'm actually an adult now. I need to grow up. I need to buy some land, or I need to actually buy a business. I really feel like that's the age where everyone goes, yeah.
Some of them give up.
Oh, no.
Have you ever heard of the 27 Club?
No, tell me about that.
Okay, so it's a well, when I say it's a club, basically it's when you get to around 27, no matter who you are and what you're doing, you feel the oncoming Saturn return. That's what it's called, when Saturn
Yes.
comes back. You feel it. So around 27, you start to feel this energy. And so what we've noticed is across the board, and particularly obvious within celebrity lives, they take their lives at around 27,
Oh,
because the
wow.
pressure that's on them to continue to be public property and to
Yes.
continue to perform at that level is too much. And they get to 27, they think, I don't actually think I could do this. It's too much for me. and so they opt out. And there's a lot of celebrities that took their lives at around about that age because they just couldn't do it anymore.
Which makes a lot of sense because of what's going on over in Hollywood and just, not being able to have their own identity and be
Yeah.
truly authentically who they need to be in order to keep themselves well.
Yeah, and normal people can think the same way as well. So I
Yes.
think if we were to look at statistically, there's probably more suicides at around about that age than any other time of life.
Isn't that good to know? Isn't that information really good to know? Especially when, one day we're going to have children that are going to be that age. And it's
Exactly. And you sort of often think society sort of thinks you're 27, 28, you're an adult. What do you mean you've
yeah.
got a problem? Get on with it, sort it out. Well, you need help. You need advice. You need support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, we all go through it. And it's a bit like being a teenager. Being a teenager, you think that nobody possibly could be going through what you're going and nobody understands you and you're so isolated and alone. Well, it's almost kind of the same at about 27, 28 when you realize that, oh my goodness, this is real. I've got to be the adult. I've got to stand up. I've got to be responsible. So big things happen for you between 28 and 30. And it could be anything from, I lost my father at 30. But some people get married at that age or have their first child. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it's just this awareness of responsibility or self-responsibility.
Yes. I mean, that was when I came home to be with my grandparents,
Right.
to help care for my grandparents. Not that they needed a lot of care then, but, just to be with them because they were in an isolated rural area. And isn't that funny? Because as much as I was coming home to support them, they were supporting me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
It all plays out the way it was destined to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
So, what do we have next? Is there anything else you wanted to talk into before we moved on to the solar return?
So a solar return chart every year, your birthday happens, your exact birthday happens at the same time as the sun returns to the exact degree it was at the time you were born. So in astrology, most people will have heard of the cusps, which go between each sign of the zodiac, which is about 3 days. Say I think in July it's like the 21st until around the 23rd of July, and that's when you could either be a Cancerian or you could be a Leo. So every month has this cusp where just before one sign ends and the other one begins. And that's because the planets don't move in a linear fashion. So your birthday, I mean, you, for instance, are born on the 19th, but some years your birthday will be on the 20th or the 18th, or maybe even the 17th, because the sun's going to return to the sky, to that exact dot in the sky or degree in the sky that it was at the time you were born, but it might not be on the same day you were born. So every year when the sun returns to the exact same spot in the sky, it starts a whole new year ahead for you. So a solar return reading is from your birthday one year till your birthday the next year. It's not over the calendar year, it's birthday to birthday. And so every year, you'll have the lessons you need to learn, things you need to do that will come up in your chart. But where you spend your birthday every year dictates what you're going to have to learn within this year. Now, that doesn't mean you can run away from your life lessons. It just means you can get a bit of a break from them at times if you want to. My teacher used to travel all over the world to have the planets lined up if she wanted to focus on her career or she wanted to spend more time at home. She would work to have the planets lined up where she needed them to be in her chart for that to actually eventuate for her. So one of the things we talked about earlier, Catherine, is where you could spend your birthday next year to have all the planets lined up for what you would like to do so from your birthday next year until your birthday in 2027. So I had a look at a couple of places for you. Now, when we choose where we're going to have our birthday, what changes it from place to place is all to do with the degrees of longitude and latitude. So for instance, if here in New Zealand, you might be living in Wellington and you think, I want to have a different birthday, have it somewhere else, I'll go to Auckland. But it actually might not change your chart very much at all because the degrees of longitude and latitude aren't that different. Even though it's a 8-9 hour drive, it's not that different in that way. So often you need to go further afield. Sometimes it's not just about going north. It can be about going really west or east or whatever. It's not necessarily about just going further. Anyway, so we looked at a couple of places for you. So you live on the Coromandel. And so when I looked at Auckland first for you, and then I looked at the Coromandel. And because they're not that close to each other, but degrees of longitude and latitude, they were very, very similar. So, and of them weren't that great for you for next year to have your birthday there. So then
Mm.
I looked at Brisbane for you, but that again didn't change anything very much. There's still you were a lot of planets in those two cases. You had a lot of planets in your 11th house, which is your area of networking, hopes, wishes, and dreams, and friends, and clubs, and committees, and groups, and everything. So it would have been very good for you socially to have your birthday there, and to maybe make a lot of connections and join up to a lot of networks and connect with people, and that would be very positive. But when I decided, okay, I said to Spirit, okay, where's somewhere else she could go and have her birthday, and what they gave me was Rarotonga in the Cook Islands. So I put that in for you. And that was fantastic, because what it did is it moved all of those planets that were in that social party part of your chart into your area of career, and which meant that you had a lineup of 6 planets sitting in your house of career, which is huge. Like I said, you're born with 3 there, but to have 6 there like completely amplifies that energy, and that really makes it so. If you, and I sort of thought when I was tuning into you that you probably would want moving forward that your major focus to be your career and to be more in the public eye and put yourself out there. And so having your birthday in Rarotonga will set that up for you perfectly.
So we're already looking at flights.
Good.
My husband's on board, so this is great.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So say if somebody wants to not focus so much on their career and they're wanting more sort of more maybe love, they're looking for love or something like that. How would you line that up? How would that look different to what we've done in this situation?
They would be looking to have planets in their 5th house instead, the house of romance.
Yeah.
So often, we've got a house which has got romance in it. Then we have another house that's got partnerships in it. So when you're looking for a partner or looking for a boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever in life, it starts with a romance before it goes into a partnership. So
Yeah.
some people might think, oh, I've got to look at my house of partnerships and when am I going to meet the person I'm going to be with forever? Well, you've got to look for romance first, because it's got to start somewhere. But what we can see for some people, like in some people's charts, they have very strong aspects between the area of friendship and the area of partnership, which would tend to mean that the perfect partner for them will be someone who starts off as their friend and it grows into a romance. And other people might have those energies up in the 9th house and in the 7th house, which would mean that the 9th house is overseas. And that could very much say your ideal partner is going to come from another country, or you're going to meet him in another country. So we start to see all these clues to how we can, move forward, how we can, make use of what we've chosen before we were born.
And then so let's talk about that. So we've got all of this in our charts and we have all of these this free will to go over to Rarotonga to be to be able to focus more on my career and have all of that. But we also have a set path in some ways.
Yeah, we do. We do. So we've
So
chosen. You choose your life before you're born. So everything and everyone who's in your life is meant to be there because you chose to have them there. So that doesn't mean we choose what we're going to eat for dinner every day, or we choose whether we're going to have, I don't know, what we're going to
yeah,
wear every day. But
yeah,
certainly it's every person who's in your life you
yes,
chose to put there before you were born. Every job you've had, every place you've been to, because every single one of those things you learnt something from.
yeah,
This is why I always say to people, when you're ready to start something new in your life, when you want something new to come in, don't look in the newspaper to find out how you're going to make it work or whatever. Look to who's around you, because everybody who's in your life, you chose to put there so you could use at some time. And that's not use in a negative way. It's using them for the skills that they've got, just like they're going to use you for the skills that you've got that can help them. So,
yes,
like years ago when I first wanted to, really get my business going, I needed a website. And, back then it costed a lot of money to get a website developed. But my daughter's boyfriend was this little 18-year-old tech wizard. And so he designed my entire website and did it all for lemon meringue pie because he loves food. And so I found a solution to my problem by just looking around me to who's
yes,
there, because it's part of their journey as well to help you in this
yes,
lifetime. So, everybody who's there. So, and when you decide, you might think that you just have a random idea to go and live in Australia or go and live somewhere else. Well, no, the reason for that is there's something there for you, a learning, a person, a job, an opportunity. So always follow what you feel. If you're feeling drawn to a certain place, there's a reason for it. It's not just random. There's a reason.
energetic codes. So that's something that sort of seems to be coming up.
I don't
Right.
know an awful lot about it, but absolutely. It's codes to me are frequencies, which
Yes.
is energy, and it's all about energy. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's right. So is there anything that you wanted to add to just, the soul chart, the natal chart, the solar return charts, or the relocation energy?
Oh, so the
You're like,
relocation charts, we didn't talk about those.
no,
So
we haven't.
So, what we can do with your astrology, with when we've got your birth details, which is your exact time, date, and place of birth, that's the information I need to do astrology work with you. Um, what what we can see then, we can put those information into the computer program that I've got, and you can choose. You can say to the computer, what would my life be like if I lived in Costa Rica or Russia or South Africa? And so you put these places in, and it comes up with all this information of how that would be for you by using your astrology. And so what it sort of says is that, it sort of gives all these ratings for different parts of your life. So it'll give you whether it'll be a good place for you to have a family, whether it'll be a good place for love, whether it'll be good for your career, culture, creativity, peace, all these different things in your life. And it lets you see how good a place will be for you before you actually go there and live it and experience it. So a lot of people work remotely now. So I often get asked by people who are living in one country, they'll write to me and say, okay, I'm thinking of living in one of these 4 places. Can you tell me which one will be good for me or what the pitfalls of another one might be, so I can be aware of this when I'm making my choices. So it's a really interesting thing to be able to do. Some places will just be terrible for you to go and live to. Like when I look at if I was to go and live in the UK and work there, I would have no success whatsoever. It is one of the worst places in the world for me to go and work. It just doesn't resonate with me. I've lived there and not doing this sort of work, but I've lived there and I enjoyed being there. But for this work, it's not going to work for me. Whereas countries like New Zealand are very good for me to do this work in. So
Yes.
yeah, we get to see where our, where's good for us and where's not.
In Ireland, for some reason, I feel like Ireland would be good for you. I think you really would like
That's
it
where
there.
my parents are from, yeah.
Oh, there we go. There it is. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I think everybody should get a sit down and get a chart done by you, Deidre.
Thank you.
Um, before we end today, though, let's talk about the dragons and the Devic Kingdom work that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So I started hearing the call of the dragons a few years ago, and I kind of ignored it for a while because, like most people, a lot of people, I thought, well, that's a bit weird. I mean, one of my things, I guess, personal insecurities with this work is that I want people to take me seriously. And so when suddenly the dragons came in, I thought, well, this is going to help people to take me seriously if I want to work with dragons. But it got stronger and stronger. And when I researched it and really looked into it and felt into it, I realized that dragons have been a part of every single culture around the world since day dot. So to me, that means once upon a time they were real. Because otherwise, why would every single culture around the world have this as part of their belief system? And so I started to look into this, and what I was shown is that, most of us, many years, long, long time ago, we all worked with dragons, and we were the dragon and the dragon rider. So the dragons are the highest octave of unconditional love. They're even higher than a guardian angel. And you bond with your dragon, you connect with it, and it will protect you and look after you like nothing else in this world will. So once I started connecting and working with the dragons, it just brought me so much more power, really, in the sense that you can ask them to clear obstacles that are in your way. I remember having to stand up and talk at my mother's funeral last year and thinking, oh no, I'm going to start crying. It's going to be awful. I'm going to be terrible. And I just said, come on, dragons, come in and give me a hand. And then woof, I just started speaking and it was absolutely fine. Got down and nailed it. And again, you can just use them to really help and support you because, like I said, they're the highest octave of unconditional love. And dragons also represent the truth. So the ladies that I get my dragons from, because when I work with the dragons, I've got dragon. I didn't bring one with me today, but I've got dragons that I work with, crystal dragons, and they also are all about the truth. You can't lie in front of a dragon. And so these girls that sell these dragons, whenever people come to their home to look at them, they just start offloading and telling all their problems, everything that's gone on in their life. It's just like a big reveal because they can't help it under the influence of the dragons. So I've just found that the more and more people that connect with them, the more safe they feel, the more secure they feel, and the more determined they feel to go after what they want. Because when we see the dragons are always protecting the jewels and the precious stones, and they have, they look like they steal it all and collect it all. Well, those precious jewels and stones are your soul. That's what the dragon's here to protect. And so he will fight to the death against your ego. that will stop you from looking after the jewel that is you. So when we work with them, we've got this sort of extra, like having this, supersonic thing on side. Yeah, it's fantastic energy. So I run these workshops live to connect people with their dragon here in New Zealand. I haven't done any overseas as yet, but I'm also on next Tuesday. I'm running one online to connect with your dragon. So it's an online via Zoom. There's only I think 1 or 2 places left in it, but then it will be full because I like to keep my workshops quite small so I can work with people personally as well. So so there's still a place to too. So that's on Tuesday morning, New Zealand time, from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 12.
I was going to ask you. I did have a look. I did have a look at the details that you sent
Good.
through to me, and it does say that you have to have some experience in meditation.
Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of it, when we're connecting with the dragons and working with them, we're doing it through meditation. We're going into that deep meditation to connect on a soul level.
Mm.
That's how your dragon connects with you. You're not just gonna pick up a picture of him or choose him off a shelf or anything. Go, that's my dragon. It's a soul connection, and so we need to do that. So yeah, if you haven't done any meditation before, then you would struggle to do the workshop. But it doesn't mean you have to be an expert meditator either. You just need to know how to get into that relaxed state. I mean, I guide you through it anyway, but you just need to have, because the last thing you want is to be suddenly double guessing everything that you're seeing or feeling or experiencing in the meditation, because you don't have the experience to know that that's what happens when you go into meditation.
Or that you go and drink a whole lot of coffee before you go into meditation and can't quite get into a meditative state.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, is there anything else that you were thinking we haven't touched on today, Deidre, that you wanted to talk
I think that's about the only other thing. I also teach 8-day retreats with people, and that's when we really go into the metaphysical work. But next year, I've got a retreat planned in Bali for next year in June. I'm still working on the final details of it. But basically, I wanted to create a retreat for women over the age of 50, because what I was finding and what I was hearing from my clients is that women get to around about that age and they think that their life is over. And some of them, have got empty nest syndrome. Some of them maybe are divorced, or maybe they've never been married or been single all their lives, and they think that, oh, life's over. I've missed my boat. I've missed my opportunities. I'm an old person now. There's nothing more for me. But actually, when we reach 50 to 60, that's the most freedom you have ever had in your life. I mean, you had freedom as a child, but you didn't really know what to do with it, or you couldn't do the things with it that you can do as an adult. So it's actually the most empowering time of your life. So I'm running this retreat to really help women to step into that energy and to see through their astrology and through meditation and work with their guides what else is for them and what direction they could be heading in moving forward, that's going to bring them a whole new chapter of their life.
Amazing. I think that's wonderful. And then the one in Borneo, sorry?
The one in Borneo is in September.
Borneo, sorry.
Again, still working on the final details of that, but that will be working with the dragons and working with a colleague who is she's a GP, but she's also an art therapist and Ayurvedic doctor. And so she's going to be bringing in the Ayurvedic sort of nutritional work as well as movement through art therapy. So she does sort of art therapy through dance, through movement to move things. So one of the things we do with the dragons is they're very, very good at being able to shift negative belief systems that are very deeply ingrained within you. So we're going to use the dragon energy of the meditations to shift that energy, and then the movement to also shift that energy. So there's all in motion. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun too.
Yes. Oh, what a wonderful life you lead.
Thank you. So they'll all be up on my website, hopefully before the end of the year, with all the information about those.
And what was your website again, Deidre?
It's www.starwise, so STAR-wise.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all of your knowledge and everything you've shared with us today, and looking into the deep, dark soul chart of mine. It's not that dark. It's actually
No, it's not dark at all.
No, it's not. It's fun. But thank you so much, and helping me with where I'm going to have my birthday next year.
Yeah, and we're good to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be a part of that journey.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What an incredible exchange of wisdom. A huge thank you to Deidre Wilton for sharing her deep knowledge of astrology, soul charts, and the dragon realms, and for reminding us that the universe isn't something outside of us, but something we are intricately woven into. If you'd like to connect with Deidre, book a reading, or join one of her upcoming workshops, including you and your dragon connection. You can find all her links in the episode description below. Please take a moment to follow, share, or leave a review. It helps this community of light grow and reach more souls on their awakening journey. Until next time, keep shining, keep questioning, and remember, you are the light you've been seeking.